It's a moment that I know many of us have been waiting for a long time. The turning point when people and places across England finally begin to take back control over the things that matter to them.
So can I bring you back to my question? What would Labour do?
Well, we've already talked about, I mean, some of the taxation decisions that the government have made around inheritance tax, capital gains tax, corporation tax, where you've given away money. Okay. This is what Jeremy was talking about.
Political interviews often become flashpoints in public discourse, revealing not only the strengths, but also the vulnerabilities of leaders under pressure. One such instance occurred when Labour's deputy leader Angela Rayner found herself at the centre of a storm during a tense interview with Andrew Neil.
We get 36 billion more. Would you now tell our listeners what is by far the biggest chunk of that 36 billion that's not paid?
I think it's mainly VAT, if I remember rightly.
Well, well, it's partly that, but what it is, it ain't billionaires sitting.
The encounter exposed policy gaps, strategic missteps, and leadership challenges, sparking widespread debate about Labour's readiness to govern and Rayner's political acumen.
Today, you've given away money that actually, quite frankly, we need to spend, and it's not just about an ageing population. That is phony. People know about the ageing population for some time. We've cut the criteria so people can't get community care. We treat our older people at the moment like dogs. It's a disgrace. We shouldn't do that.
But, excuse
we should
me,
be investing and putting the money in the primary care
Would you
services.
reverse the cuts on corporation tax?
I think that the cuts on corporation tax are missing the point because we need that money.
The interview with Andrew Neil was never expected to be easy, but its intensity exceeded all expectations. Neil, known for his incisive questioning, probed Rayner on key Labour policies, including taxation, housing and immigration.
We need that money at the moment.
Would you reverse it? Hold on.
Inheritance tax.
Would you reverse them?
I think that at the moment, cutting at a time where we need those services and people need those services is the wrong decision to make.
But I'm asking you, would you reverse the cut in corporation tax?
But I'm telling you, Andrew, that our priority is
you're not telling me the question.
I am. I'm saying.
Rayner struggled to articulate clear, consistent answers, leading to a public perception of confusion and unpreparedness. Her inability to confidently address fundamental policy questions turned a routine political interview into a viral media spectacle.
Recent car crash interview, the Deputy Prime Minister and Housing Minister Angela Rayner made glaring contradictions in her party's housing and immigration policies.
One of the most contentious topics during the interview was Labour's stance on taxation, particularly corporation tax, inheritance tax and capital gains tax. These areas are cornerstones of economic management, directly influencing public services, business investment and income equality. Neil's pointed questions exposed significant gaps in Rayner's understanding of these policies.
Cuts in corporation tax, the cuts in inheritance tax, the cuts in capital gains tax.
But what's the cut in capital gains tax?
But what's really important, Andrew...
No, excuse me, I'm asking you a question. What's the cut in the capital gains tax?
They've cut the capital gains tax. They did that. They did that as part of the coalition government.
Labour's vague responses left viewers questioning Labour's preparedness to manage the economy. Critics argued that such hesitancy undermines public confidence in the party, particularly at a time when economic clarity is paramount. Taxation, after all, is not merely a campaign issue, it reflects a party's vision for governance.
They raised the capital gains tax in the coalition government.
Well, what I'm saying, Andrew... And
what you're saying is wrong. They raised the capital gains tax to 28%.
What I'm saying is that they've given tax cuts to absolutely the richest in the country at the same time where they've told the poorest people in this country over the past... It is true. At the same time that you've told the people in this country over the last 6 years, we've got to cut our coffee... No, let me finish this point.
Labour's promise to deliver 1.5 million new homes also came under scrutiny during the interview. While the goal is ambitious and addresses a genuine crisis, the feasibility of such a plan was a major point of contention. Questions about land acquisition, financing and workforce availability highlighted the challenges Labour would face in delivering on this promise.
A crisis that isn't, or is it? Well, Rayner began by highlighting a housing crisis only to perform an astonishing U-turn just moments later, claiming suddenly there is plenty of housing already. OK, so there's a bewildering contradiction here, and it's left even the seasoned interviewer, Sir Trevor Phillips, visibly taken aback.
Rayner's responses were criticised for their lack of detail. leading to doubts about Labour's ability to tackle the housing crisis effectively. The interplay between housing demand and immigration policy further complicated the discussion, as critics questioned whether Labour had adequately considered the demographic pressures contributing to the problem.
Labour plans to build 1.5 million new homes over the course of this parliament. Fine. A rather ambitious target that no one in the industry believes they can achieve, but it's good to aim high, I guess. It was then pointed out that we're expecting an influx of 2.5 million immigrants in the same period of time. So, considering this, Rayner was asked how many of the 1.5 million new homes would be filled by the 2.5 million newcomers that we're expecting. Now, this is where Angela appeared to...
Immigration remains one of the most polarising issues in British politics, and Neil wasted no time tying it to Labour's housing policy. The UK's housing shortage is exacerbated by population growth, much of which is driven by immigration. Yet Rayner's answers failed to address how Labour would reconcile these pressures while delivering on its housing commitments.
On one hand, she said there is plenty of housing already, but on the other, she said there's not enough for the people that desperately need it. OK, so which one is it? She made both of these claims in the very same sentence. Have we got plenty of housing, or do we not have enough for those who desperately...
This oversight reopened old wounds for Labour, which has long struggled to articulate a cohesive immigration policy. The party's inability to present a balanced approach continues to fuel scepticism about its broader governance capabilities.
0.5 million immigrants that are in Rachel Reeves' budget figures going to turn up. Where are they going to live?
Well, there's plenty of housing in the UK, but the houses, especially social
hang on. You can't, on the one hand, say we've got to build this 1.5 million houses and then say there's plenty of housing already.
There is plenty of housing, Trevor, already, but there's not enough.
Rayner's performance also raised questions about Labour's leadership as a whole. How could a senior party figure appear so unprepared for a high-stakes interview? Critics pointed to this as a symptom of deeper problems within Labour, including weak leadership, inadequate preparation, and a lack of internal cohesion.
Need it. So the homes, especially under our affordable homes programme, which is social and affordable housing, they will be there for people who desperately need them, local people.
Keir Starmer's decision to stand by Rayner added another layer of complexity. Was this a show of loyalty or an indication that Labour lacks alternative leaders with the capability to step into the spotlight? Either way, it underscored the party's ongoing struggle to present itself as a credible government in wait.
This doesn't quite make sense. You start the interview by telling me that there's a housing crisis. When I remind you that you have said yourselves as a government, we're going to need 2.5 million migrants. Some of them, by the way, people are going to build the houses. Suddenly, there's a lot of housing. Where are these people going to go?
Policy mastery goes beyond having a general vision. It requires the ability to articulate specifics when challenged. For instance, Labour's plan to construct 1.5 million new homes sounded promising in theory, but lacked clarity on execution. Rayner's vague responses regarding land acquisition, funding and workforce development revealed the dangers of presenting ambitious goals without a clear roadmap. This raises a broader issue. Can political parties achieve their objectives without equipping their leaders with the necessary knowledge to defend their policies effectively?
Today should have been a breeze for Keir Starmer, the first Labour Prime Minister to address a Labour conference in 15 years, a return to power with a stonking majority, the Tories reduced almost to a rump and mired in yet another interminable leadership contest.
Such moments can have lasting consequences. In Rayner's case, the interview called into question Labour's preparedness to govern and the coherence of its policy framework. The episode also underscored the importance of leadership training in anticipating tough questions and responding with confidence. Without this, even the most well-intentioned policies risk being dismissed as impractical or poorly thought out. The Labour Party now faces the challenge of ensuring its leaders are equipped to handle public scrutiny, particularly as they position themselves as a provisional government on the basis of its own white-waiting power. Contrasting that with waiting, which perhaps place too much pressure.
To have this austerity, we've got to cut. You've cut, and do you know what? Debt's rising, and the amount of money that's going into the economy, you know, you've not made it better. Our economy is worse as a result of 6 years of austerity, and now you're saying all of a sudden we can spend money.
No, hold on.
And that's wrong because you're spending it.
You're just off now.
No, I'm
let
not
me bring
just
you
off,
back
Andrew,
to
because
no.
it's
Let me
quite
bring you
serious,
back
because
to the
people are actually
question.
underlying.
The fallout from the interview extended far beyond the immediate political arena. Clips of Rayner's faltering answers quickly went viral, dominating social media platforms and news headlines. This amplified the damage to Labour's reputation, as the interview became a symbol of the party's broader struggles.
Joe, who can't make sense of it either, really.
I'd love to help make sense of what Angela Rayner says. I don't think anybody could do that, Emily, frankly, because she makes no sense, does she? She was like a rabbit caught in the proverbial headlights yesterday with Trevor Phillips.
The media coverage played a significant role in shaping public perception of the incident. While some argued that Rayner was unfairly targeted, others saw the scrutiny as a necessary test of her leadership abilities. In today's hyper-connected world, even minor missteps can have outsized consequences, particularly for politicians seeking national office.
Be an election coming up, so you need to get your policies right. What would the capital gains tax be under a Labour government, and how much would that raise compared to now?
But I've told you, Andrew, what our priority is. It's about how we invest in our public services.
No, I'm asking you how you would raise the money. How much money would you recoup?
Those
Excuse
taxes.
me, it's important you answer.
Taxation, housing and immigration are not merely campaign talking points. They are deeply interrelated challenges that require thoughtful, evidence-based solutions. Labour must demonstrate that it has both the vision and the competence to address these issues head-on.
People's votes. How much extra money would you raise by changing the current corporation tax and capital gains tax structures?
But Andrew, we've talked about in absolute detail about the current tax system, and we said actually that the money that the decisions that the government have made and the decisions on where they're spending current money is completely inappropriate.
Labour's path to political recovery will require more than just damage control. The party must address the structural issues that contributed to Rayner's missteps, from improving internal communication to investing in leadership training. Additionally, Labour must work to rebuild its public image by presenting a united front and delivering clear, actionable policies.
For change. I was delighted to stand alongside Keir as he announced our plan just over a week ago. It's a plan for putting more money in people's pockets, a plan for putting politics back in the service of working people, a plan for stability, investment and reform, not chaos, austerity and decline.
This incident also underscores the need for better preparation in high-stakes interviews. Political leaders must anticipate tough questions and be ready to provide detailed, well-reasoned answers. Anything less risks undermining both individual credibility and broader party cohesion.
Is completely inappropriate.
So how much would you save?
You've cut 50%. In my constituency, both of my councils have seen over 50% cuts to their budget. No. So all of the people that need support are in acute services now, crippling our NHS.
So you would be able to give them more money by changing the corporation tax and changing the capital gain.
Rayner's interview with Neil serves as a microcosm of the challenges faced not just by Labour, but also by British politics as a whole. For voters, this incident reminds them of the importance of evaluating politicians, not just on their promises, but also on their ability to articulate and implement those promises effectively.
And you need that money to help. You should be investing.
You don't know, do you?
You should be investing
in those
services. No, Andrew, I'm talking about investment with the money we've currently got. At the moment, the government are not investing that money in our communities, in our areas where it's required. They're spending, they're cutting tax for those that are the richest, and they're spending money in the wrong places.
While the fallout from this incident has been significant, it also presents an opportunity for Labour to address its shortcomings and rebuild public trust. Whether the party can rise to this challenge remains to be seen, but one thing is clear. In politics, every word matters and every misstep has consequences.